One of the most common questions I get from entrepreneurs who want to write a book is, once I finish the book, how do I use it in my business? It's a great question, and there's a very, very simple answer. That's what I'm going to explain to you today. Before I talk about how to use your book in business, let me talk about what kind of results we've seen authors generate in their business from their book. Now, obviously, everything I'm about to tell you is very dependent on business niche, and it's dependent on author, and it's dependent on a lot of other factors. But in our experience, we've seen multiple authors generate millions of dollars of revenue through new client acquisition. We've seen multiple authors generate hundreds of thousands of dollars of speaker revenue. We've seen lots of authors generate tens of millions of dollars in enterprise value, meaning like major client acquisition. We've seen several authors use books to raise tens or hundreds of millions of dollars for funds or investment portfolios. We've seen authors use books to sell companies, to buy companies. We've seen authors use books to do almost anything imaginable in business, and the numbers are staggering and shocking. Anywhere from 5 to 10% increase in top line to 3 to 4 to 10x increase in top line. Totally depends on where you're starting your business. We've seen all of it happen just from a book. Now I'm going to tell you how to do it. So the basic chain of causation is this. For an author, a book creates authority, which then leads to visibility, which creates opportunities, which then spur growth. And let me walk you through this chain. The first step in the chain is using a book to establish your authority and credibility. A book establishes authority in many ways. First off, it shows you can commit to something, it shows you can get work done, it shows you know something, and it sets you up to have your knowledge judged. It used to be that just having a book was enough. Those days are past. The book now has to be good, and it has to look professional. That's the key thing you've got to remember. That is the first domino in the entire line. Your book has to actually be good. For a book to create authority and credibility, it's got to share valuable wisdom and valuable knowledge with an audience. Otherwise, it's just a bullshit brochure, and you shouldn't waste any time doing it. That being said, if you do a good job and you really show up and share valuable knowledge and wisdom, a book generates a ton of credibility and authority. A good example of this is Bob Glazer. He's the CEO and founder of a company called Acceleration Partners, and he wrote a book called Performance Partnerships. Basically, what his company had done is take affiliate marketing and make it acceptable and tangible for big Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000 companies to use. The problem was affiliate marketing still had kind of the down market taint of all the scammers that used to kind of use it in a really shady way. So Bob used his book to explain why affiliate marketing was really great, how it could be done in an ethical way, and how Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000 companies could utilize it to drive sales. And it worked. He's now working with companies like Warby Parker, Adidas, Reebok, and others because his company got in the hands of CMOs. The same thing happened with John Ruhlin. He's a gifting expert. He actually owns a consultancy that helps corporations give gifts intelligently and effectively to their customers. And he wrote a book called Giftology that explained all of his secrets and methods. But what happened was the companies read the book and they still hired John to help them implement the process. Why? Because the book was so good, they wanted to make sure that they were getting all of his knowledge and wisdom and expertise, and they were doing it right. The book was the way he sold himself. It wasn't giving away all of his secrets. The second step in the chain is using a book to raise your visibility. Whenever the media want to comment on a story, who do they go to? Well, they go to the experts, right? Well, who are the experts? They're the people who wrote the books. By definition, the expert is the person who wrote the book on the topic, and that's always who the media want to go to whenever they want to talk about any subject or any field. This is exactly how Melissa Gonzalez used her book to raise her visibility in her field and to get a ton of media attention. She wrote the first book on pop-up retail, and so what happened is every media that covers retail wanted to interview her and talk about this exciting hot new trend. Why her and none of the other consultants in pop-up retail? Because she was the expert, because she had a book. And as a result of this, it's become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now that media reports a lot more on pop-up retail, and the first person they go to is Melissa Gonzalez, all because of her book. The same thing is true with Stefan Arstal. He has a company called Tower Paddleboards that makes really awesome paddleboards. They were on Shark Tank. Yet the thing that he wrote his book about is his company culture. Basically, his employees work 5 hours a day instead of 8. The media loved this. They thought it was really amazing. They started doing stories on him and his company, and as a result, he actually sold more paddle boards and ended up hiring more people and better people for his company, all because he wrote the book on this weird sort of 5-hour workday. He became the expert on shorter workdays, and now he's the one who gets all the attention for this. How many people in your field have you seen get attention simply because they have a book? They probably don't even know any more than you do. They're just the one who get all these media articles, right? Why is that? It's because they have a book and you don't. You want to prove to the media that you have what it takes to comment, that you're the expert, that you're the one who deserves to be on TV or written about in stories? Show them you're the expert by writing the book. The third step in the chain is using the visibility and authority to create more opportunities. Let me show you a really quick way to understand how a book can create more opportunities. The number 1 search engine is Google. Number 2 is YouTube, actually. Do you know what number 3 is? It's Amazon. And Amazon is actually the number 1 search engine for professionals. It's not LinkedIn, it's Amazon. Because think about it, you probably think just like the media does. When you're looking for an expert, you go find the person who wrote the book on the subject. This actually happened to me. When I was starting my company, we got a lot of early growth, and I honestly didn't know how to scale a company. So what did I do? I went to Amazon and I bought every book I could find on how to scale companies. Most of them were garbage. There were a few that were good, but one stood out. It was called Double Double by a man named Cameron Herold. And I ended up reading this book cover to cover multiple times. It taught me everything I knew about how to scale a company. And then I ended up getting Cameron on the phone and hiring him as a consultant. He in fact now owns equity in my company. He's in my board of directors. How did this opportunity come for him? He wrote a book that was really good, that really helped me, and it led me to him. Created a singular opportunity for him that's been replicated hundreds of times. Why? Because his book is really good and it's out there. Another way a book creates opportunity is it enables word of mouth. For most businesses, the best way to market is not any sort of paid advertising. It's getting happy people to talk about you to their friends. And that's what a book really does. It gives people the words and the scripts and the concepts to talk about what you do to their friends. In fact, when we're walking our authors through the positioning process, we often use this frame to explain this to them. We tell them, imagine that your perfect reader is at a cocktail party. They've read your book and they're describing your book to friends. What do they say about it that's going to be interesting and appealing to those friends? Using that frame, we help them come up with a title and a subtitle and a positioning for a book, right? But if you think about it, that's how not only most books spread, that's how most business is done, is person to person, friend to friend, recommendation to recommendation. And if you do a good job with your book, not only will people like it, but they'll talk about it, and you can put the words in their mouth to talk about you and your book the way you want them to. A great example of this is Deb Gabor. She's a branding expert who, ironically enough, didn't have a brand of her own. So she wrote a book called Branding is Sex, which really describes her unique methodology, but also is really easy to remember and is really kind of fun to talk about with friends. As a result of this book and her very smart branding positioning, she's now working with companies like Dell, Microsoft, and Google. Why? Because that book got in the hands of the CMOs of those companies through conversations between friends. That's how it works. That's how the chain with books work. A book creates authority and credibility, which raises your visibility, which generates new opportunities, which leads to growth. Now look, the book can't really convert for you. Some people can use a book to close sales, but it's pretty rare. You're gonna have to still actually convert these opportunities. The CMO still called Deb, they still called John Rulin, they still called Bob Glazer. They still had to kind of do their normal sales, but what it did is it brought those people to the door instead of them having to go out and get them. It's essentially the ultimate form of inbound marketing, and it's the best thing you can do that I know of to grow a company long term. Write a book, use it to establish your authority, get visibility, generate opportunities, and then use those to grow. That's how it works. So if you have any questions about how to use a book to grow businesses, or really anything at all about books, please feel free to email me. My email is tucker@bookinabox.com. It's my real email. I really check it. I'll respond. I'll help you in any way I can.